Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to show you how to create advanced steampunk gears in CorelDraw. Now I'm using CorelDraw X8, but this should work in any modern version of CorelDraw like X6 or X7. If you're using X6 or X5 it may work, but I haven't tried it in those versions, so if you tried it and it does work, please leave a comment below and let everyone know. Okay, so this first gear we're going to create is kind of similar to the ones we did in the basic, but instead of using the gear teeth above the circle, we're going to create pieces to cut out part of the circle to give us more options when we're creating the gear teeth. And I'm going to also show you how you can create a library of components that you use when you make these gears, so that way when you create new ones you can just reuse pieces you've already created instead of having to recreate those components every single time. So the first one we're going to do, we're just going to do a 5x5 circle. Press P to center that on the page. We'll give that a fill, take off the stroke, and I'm going to show you how to start saving these components. So what we're going to do is go to Window, Dockers, and then come down here to the Symbol Manager and open that. And I've already got it open over here, so I'm just going to click on it. And what we can do is we can click on this, drag this over to the Symbols palette, create a symbol for that, and we'll just call that 5-inch circle. That way when we get ready to create a new one, we can just drag that out onto the page and already have it created. So once we create a symbol, you'll notice that these little squares have turned blue, and that means it's still linked to the symbols in the symbol palette. So we want to break that link. We're going to right click, go down here to revert to object, and now it's not linked to this symbol over here anymore. So with that selected, just press P, make sure we're centered. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a little shape that's going to cut into here to give it kind of a triangular kind of look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my 3-point curve tool. I'm going to click and drag and let go. Then I'm going to come back here in the middle, drag that down, click on that to set that up. Now I'm going to grab a guide from my rulers here. I'm going to put that right in the center. I'm going to grab my shape tool, click on this, double click to add a point. I'm just going to drag that to where it's centered. And then what I want to do is I'm going to change this point to a symmetrical node. I'm just going to drag those points in. I'm going to grab these and I'm just going to bring them straight out. Click, bring it straight out. If you hold down the shift key, it'll like snap. Then I'm going to grab my pen tool. I'm just going to connect these together. I'm going to break that one. So I have a shape kind of like that. I'm going to scale that down a little bit. So now we have this shape here. I'm going to choose a color, take off the stroke, and now we have this shape we're going to put here to use to knock this out to make our gears. So once we have this made, let's just drag it over here, make that into a symbol. We'll just put tooth knockout 1. Then we want to right click on that, revert to object. Now what we're going to do is we're going to rotate this around. So we'll click on that twice, drag this down to the center. And if you don't have the transform tool open, just go to Windows, Dockers, Transform, and then open Rotate. So I have it here already open, Rotate. And we're going to put about maybe 14 of these gears. So we'll just come up here and we'll type 360 degrees / divided by 14. Hit OK. I think that's a little too close. So I'm going to undo that. And I'm going to do 360 divided by 12. Apply. That's better. Let's just do that. So then we'll just hit apply all the way around. And before, we were just grabbing all these and welding them together like that. But this time we're going to select it all, and we're going to come here to the back minus front, click that, and we're going to knock those out of the circle. Instead of adding them to it, we're just going to knock that out. And I think those are a little bit deep, so I'm going to undo that, undo the rotate, and I'm going to move this up Actually, I'm just going to squash this up a little bit like that. And then I'll rotate those back around again. Whoops. Forgot to reset my rotation point. There. Now we'll rotate them around. Grab all those again. Back minus front. Knock those out. That looks a lot better. So I'm going to move this over here. Keep that. Actually, if we wanted to, come to our symbols manager. We could actually throw that in there. And we could say gear 1. Just name it something. Remember to right click and revert to object after you do that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to knock out the center. So we'll grab our ellipse tool, click here in the middle, make a circle. Let's just do 1 inch by 1 inch. Change the color, take off the stroke. And again, I'm going to bring this over here, drop this in there. I'm going to name that center knockout. I need to right click to revert that to object. Now I can select those, back minus front, knock that out. And I'll grab another one of these, revert to object. I'm going to make those a little smaller, so I'm going to make those maybe 0.5 inches. And I'm going to put it here. And I want 5 of those. So I'm going to go back to my transform, rotate, 360 / divided by 5. And one thing I forgot to do again, let me undo that. Click on this again, move my rotate point here to the middle. Alright, that says center, but that doesn't look like it's centered. Let me click that, P, click that, P. Yeah, that's off-centered. So I think this center red dot got off when I welded them together. So I'm just going to grab both of those, press P to center, back minus front. Again, I'll grab another one of those, right click, revert to object, change that to 0.5, drag it back over here, we'll line that up. And if you can see, whenever I'm lining that up, I have these dynamic guides on and the alignment guides on, and I also have down here where it says snap to objects, and you can turn on snap to guidelines also, and that way it makes it a little easier to line these up. So when I bring this over, I can see a little blue line pop up here where the edge is, and that just helps me to line it up easier. So we'll put that there. Click on that again, move our center point. Come back to our transform tool, rotate 72 degrees, we'll apply that. Now we'll select all those, back minus front, and there's our gear like that. Alright, so I'm going to grab another copy of that, drag that over here, press P to center, right click, revert to object, and this time we're going to do something a little different. This time we're going to come over here to the polygon tool, click that, come down here where it says basic shapes, and up here in the basic shapes we're going to choose this kind of a triangle looking shape, and I'm going to drag that out. Then I'm going to get my shape tool, and I'm going to drag this red dot over a little bit like that. Kind of create that shape there. And I'm going to fill that, take off the stroke. And before I put that on there, I'm going to go ahead and bring the center dot over. Press P to center that. Right click, revert to object. Then I'm going to bring this over. Get that centered. Then I'm going to hold shift, scale that down a little bit. May stretch that down this way a little bit. I think that bottom is too wide, so I'm going to hold shift, grab this middle one, just squeeze that in a little. That looks better. And I'm going to rotate this around like I did this 5. I'm going to do this one 5. So I'm going to click on that, move my rotation point to the center. Now I'm going to come back over here to my transform tool, rotate that around 72 degrees. Now I'm going to select all of this. Actually, I think I'm going to do 6 of them so that they hit right here like this one does. So I'm going to do 360 divided by 6, and we'll apply that. That way they line up with these centers right in the center of that gear. So now I'm going to take all of that, do back minus front, knock all that out, come back over to my symbols. So I'm going to grab one of these circles, revert to object, press P to center that. I'm going to change the color, and I'm going to hold shift and scale that in a little bit. And I'm going to change that to a stroke and take off the fill. And I'm going to increase the stroke, let's say maybe 3 points. I'm going to scale that in just a tiny bit more. Hold shift and scale that in. Maybe to right there. Now since this is a stroke, if we try to do a back minus front, it's not going to work. So what we have to do is select that stroke, come over here to Object, Convert Outline to Object, and now we can select this gear and that outline, back minus front, and now it'll knock that out. So that's our second gear in this series. And I have one more in this series I want to show you. So we'll grab another one of these gears, P to center it. And this time what we're going to do is we're going to click on the basic shapes here, click on star, and we want to come up here to our options, and we want to choose 8. So we'll draw a star, that. Let's make sure it's the same, so we'll just do 4 by 4. And then I want to pull these center parts up a little bit. So I'm going to use this sharpness adjuster. And I'm going to bring that out some. Maybe right there. That looks good. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab another 5-inch circle. We'll change the color on that. You got to right click on it, revert to object, and you can change the color on that. And then what I'm going to do, P to center. I'm going to grab my star, choose a color for that, take off the stroke, P to center, and we want to do object, order to the front of page. So now that we have the star on top of this blue circle, we're going to select the circle, hold down shift, we're going to scale that in where it's just a little bit smaller than the points are on the star, maybe about right there. Now what I'm going to do is before I do anything, I'm going to click the star. I'm going to drag that over and drop that in. And we'll just say 8-point star. That way we've got it there in our symbols. Now I'm going to select this blue one and the star. And I'm going to do, I got to remember to revert to object. Now I can grab the blue circle and the star, back minus front. And now it knocked out the star and left all these little triangle pieces. But we don't want the triangle pieces to be square. We want these corners to be rounded. So what we can do is select this. I'm going to blow that up just a little bit. We'll select these blue triangles. So we're going to come up to Window, to Dockers, and we're going to choose this fillet, scallop, and chamfer docker. And we're going to leave it on fillet. In the radius we're going to put 0.08, and that way it'll give the edges a little bit of a curve. We'll hit apply. And now you can see all of these have rounded edges. Now I'm going to come back to my Symbols Manager, grab one of these centers, right click, revert to object, press P to center that. Now I'm going to grab this whole thing here. Well, before I do that, I'm going to grab these triangles, drop it over here. And I'm just going to put triangles 1, click on it, revert to object. And this gear, we need to click on it, revert to object. Now we select the whole thing, come up here, back minus front, knock all that out, and then we have a gear like that with those star in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to start another page, and first thing we'll do is we'll drag out a circle, press P to center that, right click on it, revert to object, and I'm going to change the color because all the other ones we were doing were purple, so let's just change this to orange maybe. So this one we're going to grab our rectangle tool, we're going to create a rectangle here, and I'm going to center that up here. I'm going to blow this up a little bit so we can see better. And I'm going to change the color on that, take off the stroke. That's kind of too dark. Let's change it to that. Okay. Now I'm going to right click. I'm going to convert that to curves. So when we grab our shape tool, we can move these points in. So I'm going to just arrow these over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to grab that one, arrow that one over 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to click on this. Hold down shift and scale that down just a little bit. And we're going to round these edges off like we did that other one. So we're going to go back to this fillet scallop docker. And with fillet still selected, we're going to change this to about 0.05 just to give it a little bit of a curve. We're going to apply that. Now you can see it gives it a little bit of a curve there. Now I'm going to bring this down to about there, and now you can see it's going to kind of angle in and curve for the teeth. This part will be the tooth, and then this part will be the knockout. So let me scale this back out a little bit. Click once, click twice, bring my center point down. That orange is making it hard to see the center, so I'm just going to change that. Just change it to a blue color. Alright, that way I can see the center point there better. There we go. So I think we're going to do 20 of these all the way around. So I'm going to go back to transform. 360 divided by 20. Maybe I should do 360 instead of 260. Alright, so that's going to give me 18 degrees of rotation. And I think that's a little bit small. I'm going to click this. I'm going to scale that down just a little more. Hold shift, scale that down. I'll arrow that down a little bit more. Make sure our rotation point's in the center. And I think I'm just going to change this to 360 divided by 18 maybe. Yeah, that'll work better. So I'll rotate that around. Then we'll grab all that. And again, instead of welding these, we're going to do back minus front. Knock those out. But let me go back. I'm going to grab one of these and put that in my symbols. I'm just going to say square tooth 1. Now I'll grab all that. Back minus front. Whoops. Got to remember to revert to objects. Grab all that. Back minus front. Knock those out. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a triangle to go in here. So come back over to our star tool and we'll select our polygon tool and we'll just take that down to 3 and that'll draw a triangle like that. And once we have our triangle, we want to right click, convert to curves, come back over here to our fillet and we want to change this radius. And you can kind of see when you put a number in this box, you can kind of see these blue little lines that kind of show you what it's going to look like once you hit apply. So I'm just going to change that to 0.8. I'm sorry, 0.08. Give me a little bit more of a curve, hit apply. And now we have rounded corners. Now I'm going to select that. We'll give that a color, maybe green. Take off the stroke. And I'm going to rotate this around 180 degrees. So I'm just going to get my transform tool, rotate 180 degrees, no copies, and just apply so it just rotates that one. And you know, actually I think I want those corners to be a little more curved, so I'm just going to undo that. Alright, now let's do 0.15, apply. Yeah, I think I like that better. Fill it with green, take off the stroke, zoom back out. I'm going to get my symbols manager, drag that over. It's going to name that triangle 2. Right click on that, revert to object. With this selected, I'm going to grab my transform tool, rotate that around 180 degrees, no copies. Let me blow that up just a little bit. Symbol manager, drag out that center piece again, revert to object, press P to center. I'm going to press P to make sure that's centered. I'm going to grab this, line it up where I want it, and then I'm going to hit Shift, scale this down a little, place it about there, and I'm going to grab all three of these objects, and I'm going to hit Align, just to make sure they're aligned left to right. Now I'm going to click on the triangle, move my center point to the center to rotate, and I want 5 of these around, so go back to transform, 360 divided by 5. Whoops, I forgot we got to make a copy, and then apply that all the way around. That way you got this about the same amount of space here and there. So now we can just grab this. Actually, I'm going to make a, did I already save that gear? No, I'm going to save this gear. I'm going to say gear 2. Then I'm going to right click, revert to object, select all that, back minus front, knock that out, and then there's our gear like that. Oh, but you know, there's one thing I forgot to do. Alright, let's go back and undo that. Yeah, I need to undo that all the way back to where we made this triangle, because I made a little mistake. So now we're back to the triangle, and I'm going to rotate that around 180 degrees. No copies, apply. Let me blow this up just a little. I'm going to put my center point back on there. P to center, right click, revert to object. I want to grab one of these 5-inch circles. P to center that. Whoops, before I do that, I want to put this on there. Actually, I'm just going to make that a little smaller. I'm going to give that a color, no stroke. Drag that over here. Drag that out kind of where I want it. About there. Now I'm going to take this circle, put that on top, hold shift. I want to scale that down. Scale it down just so it's a little bit smaller than my triangle there. Maybe right there. I'm going to grab that, grab my triangle. I got to revert to object on that. I'm going to grab the triangle, grab my circle. I'm going to come up here to intersect, hit the intersect button. I can get rid of that circle. I can get rid of that triangle, the yellow one. And now I have this one with where it's rounded. Now I can click on it, come back over here to my fillet, do the 0.15 for the edges. Let's blow it up a little more. See. I'm going to change the color to yellow so we can see a little better. Let's maybe try 0.18. Ooh, that's too much. Okay. We'll just leave it on 0.15. I think that'll work. There we go. Zoom back out a little bit. I'm going to stretch this to about there. Now I'm going to go back to my symbols manager, drag a copy of that over, triangle 2, click on that twice, move our rotation point to the center, come back to transform. We want to do 360 divided by 5, apply. Whoops, need to change copies to 1. Apply those around. I'm going to right click on that, revert to object. I got to do it to all of them because I forgot to do it. Now we can select them all, do back minus front, and knock all those out. And we saved all the pieces here in our symbols manager, so if we ever need to create gears again, we can just use these symbols we've already made. And if you want to create new ones, you can create new symbols to add to this as well. Okay, I'm going to go back and undo this for just a second. I'm going to add this gear to there. I thought I added it a while ago, but I think I took it back out when I undid all that. So I'm going to call that gear 2. right click, revert to object, select it all, back minus front. There we go. Alright, so one more gear in this series. We're going to use that same gear. Right click, revert to object, P to center, and we're going to drag out another circle here. P to center, right click that, revert to object, and now I'm going to hold shift and scale this down a little bit. Maybe to about right there. Now what I want to do is grab my rectangle tool again, and I'm going to drag a little rectangle here. I'm going to press P to center that, and let's say 0.25 inches wide, and maybe a little more, maybe like 0.35, and then we can just scale that back down. I think that's going to be too wide, so let's just try 0.3. And then we'll just scale those back up a little bit. And we'll add a fill, take off the stroke. And we want to just duplicate this 2 more times. So we come to transform. And I'm going to do 360 divided by 6. I'm going to apply that twice. Now we have 6 spaces here. Now I'm going to come back to my symbols manager, grab that center knockout, right click, revert to object, P to center. And I'm going to hold shift and I'm going to scale this up a little bit to about right there. Let's just do it 2 inches by 2 inches. Now what I want to do is keep this circle, and I want to add these 3 lines in. So we just select all that. We got to come up here and weld those pieces together. Grab the yellow piece, grab the purple circle. We're going to do back minus front, knock those out. Now we have these little square pieces. Again, we're going to select those, come over to our fillet scallop tool. Let's zoom in just a little bit. We'll change those to yellow so we can see them better. And let's see, 0.18. I think that'll work. Let's scale that back out. We'll hit apply. Now we got rounded corners on all of those square pieces. Come to my symbols manager. I'm going to drag a copy of that over there. I'll call those squares 1. Now I'm going to grab my center again, right click, revert to object, P to center. I'll do that about 1.25. Then I'm going to select all of this. Got to make sure all these pieces are revert to objects. Select all this, back minus front, knock all that out. And now we have the gear with the rounded corner little squares. And there's those 2 gears. And now we have all those pieces saved here, so if we ever want to create a similar gear with different teeth, we've got all the pieces here to make it. So I guess that's about it for now. This video turned out to be about an hour long, so I decided to break it up into 2 parts. So this will be the end of part 1. This was page 1 of the first advanced gears that we created. This is page 2 of the advanced gears that we created. And then in the next video, we'll move on to page 3 and finish up the rest of our advanced gears. So I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. If you have a question or comment, please leave them in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to watch part 2 of how to create steampunk gears in CorelDraw. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you later.